Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the news of William Nylander signing an extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yes, there is the news that is being reported that you've probably seen by now that Nylander has signed an 8-year extension for $92 million or an AV of $11.5 million. So looking at this, what exactly is going on here? I think the biggest thing that you'll see with this Nylander, a guy that was taken 8th overall in the 2014 draft, is probably going to be a Leaf for life, assuming that they don't trade him because this contract runs into his mid-30s. So if he's still there by then, you'd have to imagine at this point he's not going to want to play for a bunch of other teams. And if Toronto was able to continue to give him contracts, he's probably going to be able to say that he was a Toronto player for his whole career. Now, with that being said, what does this mean for Nylander and what does it mean for the team? Two things, I think, is what it means for William. So with this deal, I think it's really important because he has been, unfortunately, I think, the scapegoat at times. We've talked about this before on the channel, and I'm not the only person that's talked about this. The fact that anytime things went wrong for Toronto during the playoffs, you would say, well, Austin Matthews can't leave because he's Austin Matthews. John Tavares can't leave because he is on a bigger deal and he's the older out of the big four. And Mitch Marner will play a lot of minutes with Matthews. So Nylander's got to be the guy that goes. Nylander is going to be the guy that suffers because of this playoff failure. However, now with this extension, I think it really does solidify his future because looking at Tavares, him being older and probably not going to be able to play up to what you would expect him to, especially with the money that he's been able to get at this point, Nylander's future is secured, which I think is really good because he's been able to carve out a nice career so far. And another thing is, too, for Nylander, what does it mean for him? It means he's secured the bag and he's got to be set for life as long as he's stable with his money. And what does it mean for the Leafs? It means that they get to keep a very key piece for this team. Looking at his career so far, he's had 4 seasons where he's cracked 60 points or more on the year. And that's just one of those deals where things continue to look good for him. He's already had another season where he was at 59 points and was only able to play 68 games because they stopped the season at that point because of the pandemic. But looking at this, you're seeing the past 2 seasons, especially, and how this season is going. And I think this is exactly why we're seeing this contract have to be hammered out right now, because he's coming off of 2 80-plus point seasons. Last year, he set a career high with 87 points. He had 40 goals. And this year, he's currently 5th in the league for points. He has, I believe, 54 in 37 games played. So he looks like he's very well on way to cracking that point mark again after setting a career high with 87 points last season. And right now, he's on pace for 119 points this season. So you, with the Leafs, see this being an important deal because we know that Nylander is a player that will give them offense, somebody that can score goals, somebody that can dish the puck out and can play important minutes for you. That is incredible there too. But on top of that, not just playing key role for you offensively, playing a key role for you offensively consistently. This is a player that already has been able to play 80 games or more in his career. In fact, he's played 81 games or more 4 times in his career, basically meaning that at most he missed a game a season, has been able to play 82 games, I believe, once in his career. And that's not even counting the seasons where it was a shortened year, and who's to say he wasn't able to play most of those, which he probably did. I didn't go back through and check at this, but the point remains. He's getting paid a lot of money because of the offense, but he's also getting paid because he's going to be out there. He's not going to miss, 30 games a year, historically, from what we've seen. So for the Leafs, they were able to keep a huge part of this team going forward. Now, is money a big concern? I think you could argue yes, especially next season. You're looking at the fact that Toronto has 4 players that are set to make over $10 million. At least that's what's being put out on Spotrac. And you have, obviously, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares. However, looking at this, you realize that you have Marner and Tavares that are coming off the books after next season. So that will give the Leafs a little bit of time to decide. It'll give Dubas and co. a plan of what they want to do, and I'm sure they've already figured it out by now, but you would have to imagine that they want to keep Marner because Marner is younger than Tavares, and you would have to imagine that Tavares, if he wanted to stay, would have to take a discount in order to keep things where they're at. And I think the important thing here for Toronto is this deal really does get 2 out of the big 3, if you will, of the younger players locked up. There was a lot of concern about Matthews. Where would he go? How much money could he fetch? And would he go to Arizona, which was kind of a joke, and I do think a lot of people didn't really take that seriously. However, if Arizona was more stable in a spot to compete a little bit faster, who's to say he wouldn't have left? What would have happened then? Would Nylander have wanted to be one of the faces of the franchise, or would he have said, you know what, we have been in Toronto, we haven't had all the playoff success that we've wanted, maybe I leave, maybe Marner leaves. With the Matthews and the Nylander extension now, you'd have to imagine that Marner probably will want to stay. What does it mean for JT? Can't really say right now, but the future looks very good and very bright for this Toronto team that has been one of the most consistent regular season teams in recent memory. So with that being said, of course, there are still going to be massive expectations for this Maple Leaf side, and you'd have to imagine too that they want to see more playoff success. So this team has only been able to go to the second round once, which was last season, but you got to think that if they're able to break down the door there, and with some of these other teams in the Eastern Conference getting a little bit older and some other younger teams still underachieving, maybe you're in a situation where you're seeing this trio of guys for the Leafs, with Nylander playing a key role for them, be able to take over the East for a little bit and hit their primes, and then maybe go into the Stanley Cup final and maybe win it. I can't tell you right now, because a lot of people make fun of the Leafs and say the Leafs always choke, but the reality is they're always in the running, and in the situation they're at right now, they very well could go on a run in the playoffs. I know that sounds like a joke, but sometimes you will see droughts in and you have to take these teams seriously. So please understand that the Leafs are in a great spot here. And with Nylander, is this a lot of money? Yes, but the cap will rise. And again, just being able to see what the Toronto side's been able to do over the last, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that, you are very aware of the potential they have, and they're in a market where you know that they have no problem spending money. This is a hockey crazy market. This is almost the hockey mecca of the world, if you will. We've argued about that with Montreal and some of those other original 6 cities about what's the most important city, but Toronto or Montreal, I think, usually gets thrown out there the most. Toronto fans will show up if there's bad seasons, but guess what? They want money to be spent. They want to be able to keep star players. This is exactly what they do, and with Nylander, I am really happy for him to be able to get that money and to finally feel like he's not on the chopping block, if you will, and for the Leafs to be able to keep this exciting group together. But what do you think? Do you think that Nylander is worth the money? Do you think that he'll be able to have a career year this year where he's able to crack 100 points? Do you think that'll be the norm in the future? Do you think that he will be able to stay healthy? And do you think he's a consistent 40-goal scorer over the next whatever years of this deal? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.